You are listening to the MSPoweruser Podcast. This is episode 44, recorded April 20th of 2017. Each week on this podcast, we discuss the latest news about Microsoft, which includes Surface, Xbox, mixed reality, Groove, and of course Windows. Plenty more. Today we will dig into the new update schedule, the new insider builds for PC and mobile, which have drastic different numbers, a new killer feature coming to Redstone 3, Project Neon shows up for more users, we get to see a bit more of a Surface competitor, and we learn a bit more about WOA. Whoa. Andy, how you doing today?
Today I'm doing pretty good. This week has been a bit of a mess in just all sorts of regards, dealing with hard drive adapters and old hard drives, along with other stuff piled on top, and just to sum up a good chunk of my week, computer hardware that is over 10 years old is often a real pain to deal with. Actually, this is over 15, so it's often a real pain to deal with, to just put it the easy way.
Okay. Listeners, that is your co-host, Andy Bennett, and of course, my name is Vernon E.L. Smith, and I forgot to say that in the beginning.
At this point, I think I understand that, though.
I hope so, but if you are a new listener, welcome. We thank you for taking the time to listen, and hope you come back for more. This is a hourly. Well, this is a weekly podcast. It goes about an hour long, and let's kick it off.
If it was hourly, I'd hopefully be rich by now.
Yeah. Well, let's start off with some insider stuff. Many people listening to this show obviously are insiders. We can assume that. And there's new stuff coming out.
I can handle this one, I think.
All right.
Because this one is something pretty interesting that Microsoft has pretty much solidified a schedule for new Windows 10 updates. And not exactly your usual Patch Tuesday updates. We're talking big updates like the Creators Update, the Anniversary Update, or the November Update. And this isn't really a rock-solid schedule, but rather these are the targets that Microsoft is aiming for. They might be pushed back a month or two sometimes. We don't know if they ever will, but there is a chance that will happen, as that's just how development goes. Not everything will end up as you hope it will, and sometimes things either have to be cut, like we saw happen with my people, and then pushed back to a later date. Now, anyways, the big confirmation here is that each new big update, there's going to be 2 big updates targeted for each year. These are going to happen in both September and March of each year if things go correctly. And of course, that also confirms that the next big Windows 10 update is coming this September. At least that's what they hope for. And hopefully it will be September. Now, Microsoft has been pretty good at hitting some of their targets recently, if I recall correctly. The Creators Update hit its target almost exactly. And that's been
Anniversary Update was almost to the year, almost to the day of the year. That's why they called it Anniversary, but I mean, they couldn't really adjust the name very quickly. It was, was it 3 days before when Windows 10 was first available?
No, it came out 3 days late. So
maybe okay. Because it was a Tuesday. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, actually, I completely forgot if it was about releasing on a Tuesday or not. That I didn't even think about at the time. Wow. Yeah.
Well, it's not incredibly relevant. The thing with the new updates twice a year, I like that people can expect that. I like that Microsoft is saying, okay, this is what our plan is. This is what you can expect. Don't freak out and don't waste your time trying to speculate. And of course, like Andy said, those targets can move around a little bit. That's fair. That's understandable.
Yeah.
So that's very reasonable. Another thing regarding updates is that both Office, which is still a huge thing for enterprise and many consumers, is going to get their updates the same time as Windows 10 itself. Now, that does not matter as much to consumers, but for enterprise, that is a big deal, and I think that's a very wise move, actually, so that people just know that, oh, crap, here comes March. Guess my whole computer's going to get screwed up again. And I work with these people, so I know that this is not an exaggeration. Even if it is truly making their lives better, people don't like change, and that's just the way it is. But if you know when it's coming, and enterprise and IT people can adapt, and they say, okay, guys, everyone show up in the conference room for 3 hours, and we're going to go over the new updates. Once and for all, we're going to cover Office, we're going to cover Windows. This is what you're getting. Shut up, quit complaining, eat your cookies and coffee, or, I'm sorry, not cookies, donuts, people, donuts and coffee, and get back to work with your new updates. The consistency, knowing what to expect, these are things that humans need, and it is good that Microsoft is doing this. And
yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense, really, and hopefully they will be hitting these targets.
Mm-hmm. And of course, they can still delay. If you're on professional, you can still delay basically about a year. So you can still update just once a year and deal with all that in one lump. But I think doing twice a year is going to be less threatening for people. I should say it's going to allow enterprises to jump in there. And of course, if these updates are smaller, the changes are less drastic, then people should be able to adapt more easily. And the support does maintain for 18 months. This is way different than the just about 18 years that XP was running strong. Or maybe it was like 16 years or something, but
it was around that. But well, wait, no. XP came out in 2001, and XP was it was like 14. It was 13 or 14 years that XP was alive, I think. Mm-hmm. It has been a while, obviously, but
believe me, it's still alive, unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, it's not officially. I mean,
it's out there, man. People.
I mean, yes, officially, I guess, because if you are paying Microsoft for updates, like, if you're a government customer or something, they will give you updates, but not for the average consumer, of course.
Mm-hmm. Point being that they're drastically reducing the support life cycle for these different versions. They want to get everyone current.
Yeah, that's fair.
It makes sense.
Which I find it kind of funny, really. On a similar note, that I think it was last week we talked about Microsoft blocking updates on certain processors, which is kind of funny, really, that Windows 8 is still on mainstream support and should still be receiving new features, and yet Microsoft is blocking updates for it on certain processors. And I mean, people can say all they want that obviously Windows 8 users should have upgraded to Windows 10, and I believe they're right, but Windows 8 is still under mainstream support, and Microsoft was still technically under an obligation to provide updates for it there. So it is kind of funny that they are even going back on some agreements to drop support quickly on certain operating systems.
And regarding the agreements and dropping the support or maintaining it, people tend to forget that this is a service. We are basically, what is the term?
Well, they're writing they're writing short new agreements, but the thing is that old schedule was still set in stone. And they did not change it. They didn't come out one day and say, all right, Windows 8 mainstream support is over early because there's not enough demand for the operating system to warrant it. Instead, they just silently do it and say it's for security features and etc., which is also kind of funny, really, that that block included the Ryzen processor, which actually has performance issues at this point in its development on Windows 10, which they had to demo it on Windows 8.1 because of performance issues that, again, were just tied to the nature of development, but it's still something that I found kind of funny nonetheless. But the point I was trying to make there really was that, like, they are even shortening the lifespan of stuff that they said would have a much longer life than it's going to get.
Well, it is basically that people are licensing the software, and not many consumers really want to hear that, and I'm not saying that is the wisest choice, but that's a business choice that Microsoft makes, and they can pull it as they need to, and they can push forward, and it's a business, and they don't want to piss off their customers, but at some point, there's a balance there to doing what is best for the business going forward.
And of course, there's also the thing about the license. That license does include the whole, we promise to give Windows 8 mainstream support until so and so and so. And yeah. I don't know that exact date, but it has not passed yet.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Well, though.
All right,
moving on towards more Windows 10 stuff, the Windows Insider program is still in full swing. Well, rather, they're warming up for the next swing at this point in time, but there are builds going out, and the latest builds for PC and mobile continue the strange, well, not strange, rather, now that we know the reason, but the split in builds for both PC and mobile. And I don't know if we covered it last week or the week before, but
I know we did cover it. I've talked about it, yeah.
Yeah, but the builds for PC and mobile are just completely split now. Mobile is not on Redstone 3, an insider program. It is on Feature 2. This is kind of like life support, really. I mean, it's an update that cleans things up. I think Windows Phone 7.8 should sound a little familiar to Vernon, and I've seen a lot of people comparing this to that. And
just kind of get an idea here of what these build numbers are, just to help you for the numerical thinkers. With Redstone 3 for PC, build number is 16,179, and this is the first, I believe this is the first 16,000 number that we've had for these builds. And of course, mobile is 15,205. Andy, do you remember the last 1,500 build we have? 15,1 something? No, I don't remember now.
Pretty sure that was actually. Wait a second. Well, I mean, the
15. I can look it up, and it's
15,063 is the creators update, and feature 2 on mobile is really just like a post creators update thing where they go in, they clean it up, and that's it. Mm-hmm. There's not going to be. I mean, it's kind of like really. Excuse me. The creators update didn't bring too many updates to mobile, really, but this is even less. And
I think Andy may have coined the phrase, or at least I've heard it from you first, that this is the long-term service branch for mobile, and that
I don't even know if I was the one who said that. I think you might be podcasting too much.
I won't deny that. I actually had even more. This is off the subject, but even more than my regular 2 shows a week. I had an extra one recorded or published with a friend of mine, and I am recording tomorrow morning, like in 5 hours with someone overseas, and I am I love being behind this mic, and I'm also just tired and want to go to bed. I'm not tired. Yeah. I'm not sick of podcasting. It's just been extra busy. I love it. I do love it.
And as we just a note for listeners, as we record this right now, it is 11:32 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time for me, and Vernon's an hour behind. So
I'm typically an hour behind.
Yeah. But so anyways, these builds, Redstone 3 on PC, Feature 2 on mobile. The difference is that Feature 2, surprisingly, does not have features. That was a very witty and original joke, and there's a rim shot in the background somewhere. Thank you. And PCs are going to be getting new stuff. Mobile is just going to be getting life support. And this is all bug fixes here. I mean, looking at what's fixed right now, it should be noted that in PC for the moment, mostly going to be just not exactly bug fixes, but under the hood stuff rather, as they prepare to get things going.
Preparations, exactly.
Yes. Whereas mobile right now is bug fixes. You might see just bug fixes in what's fixed and whatnot for PC builds, but the thing is, you're not seeing everything that is getting changed.
Exactly. These lists are not all inclusive. This could be
exactly.
Well, it's just what they want to show us.
Yeah, and this is what happens really at the start of any development cycle we've seen so far in the Insider program. After one release happens, we'll see a couple weeks that are nothing but one core improvements and bug fixes.
Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily worth covering some of this stuff, except there's some bug fixes where Continuum was not working right with the Elite X3, and other than that, not really worth talking about for mobile. Scrolling through desktop, anything? Let's see, or through broken stuff.
I will say that it's interesting to me really how some of the stuff that's changes on mobile are targeting specific devices. Like you'll see here that fixed an issue with Continuum on the Lumia 950, fixed a targeting issue that caused some variants of the Alcatel Idol 4S to not receive a build, Fixed the issue where supported Windows 10 mobile devices were showing the update to the Windows 10 anniversary update as not yet available in the upgraded... the upgraded Advisor app. Fixed an issue where Continuum would stop working on the HP Elite X3. Stuff like that is specific device targeting as they clean up the final Windows phones out there. And looking at a desktop,
now, I should say that is a pretty controversial phrase, Andy. You said the final Windows phones. Now, one could say the final Windows mobile devices. But that remains to be seen.
If I'm going to be specific, final Windows 10 mobile devices. I do feel as if something else done by Microsoft in this space is inevitable. So, not exactly final Windows phones. It's just like the way it goes in my head.
Yeah, like we went from like Windows Phone with a capital P to at some point it was Windows just Phone with a lowercase p. It's also Windows Mobile, Windows 10 Mobile, capital M, and I think we're moving to a mobile Windows lower, and that's a very broad term.
At this point, I've got no clue when it comes to
as far as any real good idea. Crap, I mean, I don't know.
there's a couple ideas that can be tossed together, but like when it comes to something that I think the company will actually do, at this point it's a complete enigma. They keep going every which way, and I just cannot figure it out anymore. It is nearing a point where I just quit trying. I'm going to admit.
I'll just say this: that there were very, very, very few clues about HoloLens, and when it came out, it was a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Although, really, I mean, some of the stuff that happened with to Windows Phone was also a pretty big deal. And just, I don't know. I can't say I have much hope for the platform as it currently stands. I think there could be hope for whatever comes next, but it also needs a promise with it that Microsoft isn't just going to reboot the platform every 3 years. Mm-hmm. Which, so far, history's not looking good on that.
Agreed. All right, Andy, tell us about this awesome new killer feature.
All right. So, Microsoft is now going to... Well, not Microsoft, but rather Windows is going to be throttling background usage by certain apps with Redstone 3. This was experimented with in the Creators Update and was turned off prior to release. But now they are officially talking about it, officially confirming that it's coming with Redstone 3, and some of you might be seeing it in the Task Manager right now under the Details pane. And this is called power throttling, and it can save up to 11% in power consumption by a device's CPU, but it won't be available on all Windows 10 devices. This is a feature that only works on devices powered by Intel's Skylake and Kaby Lake processors for now. But Microsoft says it will bring support for more processors over time. So, what does it actually do? According to Microsoft's Bill, and I hope I'm saying your last name right, Karagounis? Windows 10 now has a sophisticated, oh my goodness, the time's catching up with me, but a sophisticated detection system that can automatically detect what apps and tasks are important to you and the ones that aren't very important. Now, like for example, if you're compiling an app in Visual Studio, obviously you care about Visual Studio. It is a priority. And so more resources are going to be dedicated to Visual Studio, as opposed to, say, let's say you've got like 15, 16 background tasks caused by your browser of choice. I mean, at this point, I think every single one of them is going towards a multi-process setup. So even Edge, Chrome, Firefox, you name it, odds are it's got a ton of processes aligned with it. Well, anyways, it's not going to be focusing the battery on those background tasks. They're going to be throttled. And you're not going to notice it. It's supposed to be a completely seamless process that won't hamper performance and will instead just focus resources on what you are focusing on. There's nothing bad about this, and I'm interested to see where it goes. An 11% in power consumption. That improvement can be a make or break thing for some people. I mean, it depends, of course, on what your battery life is already, and also, of course, depends on if your processor is going to be one that's supported. But for some people, this can definitely be a big boost, and I'm going to be interested to see if they've got this like optimized for the Surface Pro 5 or 6 or whatever it is. That if that will be focused on this. I mean, potentially could be that a Surface Pro will come out prior to the release of Redstone 3. We don't know if it will, but so it might be, maybe it'll be Surface Pro 5 that'll get optimization for it down the line or whatever, or maybe it'll be a Surface Pro 6 that launches with it. I don't know, but I have a feeling they're going to try and do some work to optimize this even more for whatever device they're cooking up next.
All right, I got a couple things here. 11% is a double-digit number. That's good. It's progress, so that's certainly good. But that is still basically, if your laptop is lasting 5 hours, that's basically getting it to 5.5 hours. It's something. It's positive, yay, and all that. But I'll just put that into perspective a little bit. Another thing here, and I cannot turn down the chance to use this term, okay? But what it says is that the throttling can be turned down off entirely by using the power slider. And I love the term power slider because it reminds me of like an 80s rocker, doing the power slide. Thirdly, I think I have a conspiracy theory on this, that this is like Microsoft throwing Intel a bone, okay? Because they know Intel has substantial competition coming up. I wouldn't even say in the next 2 years, but after that, with Windows on ARM, with Qualcomm.
Actually, I will also say that, if talking about Intel competition right now, there's a lot of focus on the gaming side on AMD's Ryzen processors, which, I mean, should be definitely interesting there. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, but they definitely do have big competition that is coming up very, very soon.
Mm-hmm. So, as I understand this, it is almost all software or firmware, I don't see how necessarily Qualcomm or Intel is doing this themselves. Obviously, they worked a little bit with Microsoft on it. But it is specific to two different chipsets, and I don't remember which generation, the Kaby Lake and the... which one are we on here either? Crap. What was the other one? Kaby Lake and Skylake, yeah. But I would say that this is Microsoft trying to help. This is my conspiracy theory. This is Microsoft trying to help out Intel and give them a little bit of preemptive ammunition to combat ARM when this comes. I think.
All right. Now it's time for my take. It's just because Intel processors are really good.
Okay, let's go with that too.
Yeah, I mean,
so,
personally, I enjoy your take a bit better, but I mean, I really just think it's the fact that Intel makes some fantastic processors. I mean, I'm rocking this year's i5 right now, and it is just fantastic. I got no complaints with this thing whatsoever, and I'm excited for the day when I eventually get up to i7.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving on to new stuff. The Groove Music and also the movies and TV apps have got a refreshed look. They had a refreshed look already, with Project Neon, but that was only available through FastRing, and now it's moved. Actually, I think SlowRing had it.
Yeah, SlowRing has had it for a couple weeks, 2 weeks. Yeah. Around there.
And now it is available for release preview, and I'm mostly certain this is both mobile and PC. I'm pretty sure it's both.
Elements of this are in mobile.
Yeah.
Elements. And not all of it, but elements. And yeah, this is a look that's got very early Project Neon in it. And it features some things that are very odd but intentional design choices, such as a little object called noise. And what noise is basically is that, and I think anyone who's used an image editor before knows what this is, but there's some programs, like for example Paint.net, that has a little feature that will let you add noise to an image. That's little scattered pixels. And on Windows 10, in certain apps so far with Project Neon, that noise element will cover up various those pixels will cover up the blur. My bad there. And it's very odd. It feels like a very early thing, but it is not a bug. It is very intentional, as if you go into the Windows Apps folder, for these apps, go poking around, you will find in a folder dedicated to XAML, there is a little 256 by 256 pixels asset that is the noise asset that controls that. And fun fact, though, is that if you remove that noise asset, then Neon is completely disabled. All the transparency is gone. It is just a solid object. So that's interesting to me. I have been playing with this stuff on and off to try and figure out just how it works. But due to how locked down Windows Apps is, it is really hard to figure out certain stuff because I just can't replace these files. Like I can delete them, but replacing them is not an option for me. At least with what I've been trying. In fact, even some of my friends who are far better at this than I am, admittedly cannot crack that cookie. But yeah, it should be a very interesting early look at Project Neon, and I'm honestly surprised to see it come this far this early. I mean, we're right at the start, at the launch of the Creators Update. I mean, it's still rolling out to so many people, and will be for maybe a month or two now. But it's very early, especially when we consider that Neon is supposed to be more focused on Redstone 3 than the Creators Update. So that's just interesting food for thought, personally. And but I really do hope that we see more of this, and that they also get rid of that stupid noise element, because that is just really ugly looking. Okay, then. Now I will toss the next one to you, because you have this installed on your phone.
Well, I will finish up actually on the Groove app, because an update that was, where are we at? With one of the recent builds, and it was also in A/B testing, just a reminder that this enabled playing music videos directly through the app, both on mobile and desktop. It was actually a very, very interesting feature, and I'm waiting to see the next layer of it rolled out, if it goes to full both A and B.
It's kind of interesting, actually, that came with did it come alongside the Neon update?
It was. I thought there was another version with Neon stuff in there before this one, but I wasn't running fast ring, so I didn't experience this, and I don't remember which insider build
just was going to say that it's kind of interesting, really, that like the concepts that Mahidi put out before that were focused on Groove mostly, those were all Neon concepts, and interestingly, if I recall correctly, a bunch of those did feature a music videos button on Groove, so I was curious if it came alongside it in the same update.
I wish I remembered the specifics on it. It was a little bit vague, but most definitely there, and I hope they don't pull it. Just like, I was thinking about this, and this is way different, but I want to rant on this for just a moment, okay? It's way different, but worth it. Remember when Xbox first, I don't know which version it was or whatever, okay, which, update.
All right, time for trivia time with Andy.
Yeah, exactly. So remember when Microsoft announced, and maybe they even demoed, TV pass-through, like not only TV pass-through, but DVR mode on your Xbox. Remember that?
Yeah, I do, and I
don't remember when.
I remember the focus of it being on the Xbox One reveal, although I do remember the 360 having some very TV-focused functionality, although some of that might have been a Windows Media Center holdover.
Well, that part was true, definitely. But also there was such a big push as this being like the home hub, not literally.
Oh, that push was the Xbox One reveal, yeah, and that got torn to shreds, completely, because the market for that was, it's a gaming console, and it was a gaming market, and it just got blasted and ripped apart for the TV focus.
Well, I liked it, but of course that I'm not. My opinion doesn't count really when it comes to that.
And I guess it all comes down to, really, because keep in mind they're both sides that have an audience. The end result is, okay, which audience is bigger? And eventually, I guess gaming won, because you look at the Xbox One now, and there's TV functionality that is getting snipped out bit by bit. So
the other part of it, and we didn't see this. I don't think this was confirmed, but that the cable companies had an incredible backlash at Microsoft saying, no way you're going to replace our DVR. We need people continuing to pay $11 a month for that crap.
Oh yeah, I actually remember that as well. Yeah,
and that is what I was getting at. That bothers me, because why can why can a software company not come up with both piece hardware and good software that allows users to take advantage of something, okay? Like whatever that is. And especially if it means that, let's just, what is it? DirecTV?
I just want to say fear of antitrust, but let's look at Google. They're doing whatever, and the government's doing nothing.
The thing is, Microsoft wasn't creating a new television network or anything like that. They're just giving you a great way to view and store your what do you call it, media. And if the cable companies,
maybe Microsoft in particular is a bit afraid of lawsuits and whatnot. I mean, because keep in mind, they did get hit with the hammer before. Google and the like has not yet, to my knowledge, at least not to such severity. But I mean, maybe Microsoft in particular is just a little afraid of some of this stuff because I mean, you'll look at other companies again. You know, look at Google. They are not afraid of anybody. They do whatever they want, for better and for worse. Often for worse, in my opinion. But yeah.
So I am not up on new media. Cable, satellite, I have not had either one of those in a decade. Okay. But was it not TiVo that came out with the original like DVR first and then cable companies and satellite companies?
That does sound about right, yes.
Then they copied it because why not copy a good thing? And, of course, start charging people for it, monthly instead of a couple $100 outright for TiVo. Well, why could Microsoft not do that? Why should the cable companies get all bent out of shape? Well, I can see why they would, but they shouldn't be unjustly bent out of shape for this. I think Microsoft should push back and say, okay, now we know Xbox One and One S and Scorpio are awesome gaming consoles. Here, we're going to add another layer of software in there that you can, this is going to make it
start
better.
DVRing and whatnot, but I mean, really, around the launch of the Xbox One originally, I mean, that would have been a time to talk about it, I guess. But really, I mean, it feels as if the time for any focus on that has passed completely, and that we're pretty much done with the Xbox One Media Hub idea. There's still elements of it that are there, sure. It's still a pretty great platform for stuff like a Blu-ray. It's a real good Blu-ray player. I've been watching the Batman films on there lately. Well, it's good.
I actually think that since Xbox is traditionally gaming, obviously, and those are the people that are going to pay more for it, once that permeates out, I think, another couple of years or something, or a year, would be the time that Microsoft should roll out more of a media focus.
Well, I mean, keep in mind, they had a decade to try, and it just didn't happen, so...
I'm just saying, I don't know. If they truly did back off because of the pressure from the cable companies, to me, that would be a reason that Microsoft would want to capitalize on that because they know that it threatens them.
Yeah, I would say though that if they back off when they back off at the time of the original Xbox unveiling, which they did, I think that was a fear of a lawsuit or antitrust or whatever. Perhaps. They didn't want to start fights.
I just didn't hear that.
It's just a case of you don't want to have a fight with any other companies. I mean, it might seem trivial at times, and it might seem like Microsoft could obviously win, but they don't want to take any risks. Now, as for any chance of that stuff being revived now, I just cannot see it happening.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
the cable satellite companies
priorities
are going
have shifted
away.
at Microsoft in the Xbox division, and it's focusing more and more on gaming, even if you do see some remains of the old era, where you'll see a big focus on pushing that 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray player, which I mean, I have no issue with that. That does not take away from anything at all. It's not taking away any resources or media focus or whatever. That is just a real nice feature you can't complain about. But seeing heavy development of TV-focused features, that might end up taking away from the side that they are actually selling consoles for.
Maybe. I don't know. I had to. Yeah. I was thinking that this week, and I had to say something.
Well, that was a fun conversation.
Yeah. Moving on to Windows Mobile, and not just mobile, but think of a.
Well, it's a
service. It is mobile. It's quite literally a mobile service. The Microsoft.
Yeah, and this is something. And I do want to note that this is a service that is being advertised as part of the Office brand. Surprisingly, although it doesn't have it in its name, I saw the commercial for it today, and it swipes you through like a Microsoft PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, etc., etc. Then it gets to Microsoft To Do. So it's in an advertising sense, it seems to be considered part of the Office line.
Mm-hmm. Well, there were a couple things that led to this. Project Cheshire, an awesome name, was basically the old to-do list as they were. It was in beta, and I don't know. I don't remember if it was.
It seemed to have a closed beta that some people were talking about.
I didn't remember. I wasn't in on it. And then of course it did replace Wunderlist, which was bought in. Oh, I guess you got it in the notes here. 2015, Wunderlist was purchased by Microsoft. And it's now available on everything. It's on the web, on Windows PC, as an app there, iOS, Android, and even Windows 10 Mobile. I haven't installed the Android one. I don't know where my Moto G is here, but the app seems decent enough, especially on the desktop. When I logged in with that, it actually pulled in what it thought were to-do lists from a few different pages I had in OneNote, from several different notebooks actually. Now I wasn't really thrilled with how it chose those. That was a little bit misleading and confusing, but it's definitely pulling in from OneNote, or at least it did for me there. And then it syncs across just fine. I mean, I added a to-do item on each of my devices, and it synced over. It's not mind-blowing, but it just makes sense that way. And of course, you can add different things, sort by a different, when it's due or when you initiated it or priority, things like that. And let's see what else. I don't know. It looks pretty good so far. I think it's definitely a light app. It's far from what OneNote is. OneNote is huge, has obviously overload with features, and I see how it made sense to spin off something from there. In conjunction with Wunderlist, and
really, this is a Wunderlist successor more than anything else, and that's what Microsoft's planning to do with it. Like, as soon as this app's filled up with features, Microsoft is planning to ditch Wunderlist entirely, but they're waiting for it to have all of the features of Wunderlist first.
Mm-hmm. So it's a free app. It's part, like Andy said, part of the Office suite, or it's marketing that way, just like OneNote is part of Office, but it is free, and it's worth checking out.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting app, and I wish I had more use for to-do list apps, but I just have my daily tasks memorized in my head anyway, so it's not exactly something that I care too much about at the moment. But hopefully I'll have more stuff to do, and I'll get to put it to use sometime.
Well, what I care about at the moment, this is a horrible segue, and I just blew it by using the word, but I do want a new laptop soon, and these new laptops from Samsung look pretty compelling. What do you think about these, Andy?
Well, these aren't well, I mean, it's a tablet that can replace your laptop, which sounds a little familiar. I mean, they're not using that line, but it's exactly what it is. It is a Surface competitor coming direct from Samsung. And this is the Samsung Galaxy Book, which we've heard about for a while. I've been interested in for that same amount of time. And just an all-around neat-looking device. Now, this is essentially the Samsung Surface. I'm not going to put it any other way because that's exactly what it is. It is a device that is intended to be a convertible 2-in-1 that's going to be going up against the Surface Pro 4 and features nice tie-ins with Samsung services, apps, and devices. And just all around, this thing looks cool. I mean, the stand does seem a little odd. People have compared that to the iPad Pros.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this is just a neat thing. You got to open up the article here and see the picture for yourself, I guess. But I just think it is a good-looking device. And it interests me. The specifications interest me. The fact that I'll be able to get an LTE model from Verizon interests me. Especially since it means I might be able to pay monthly on it, which is like a deal breaker, not a deal maker, rather than a deal breaker. I mean,
that's still going to be like, Andy, that's still going to be like $50 a month to rent that thing.
Yeah,
$50 to $100 a month.
Yeah. At the very least, my S7 gets paid off soon, so maybe I'll be able to focus that on there.
Yeah.
But anyways, though, they have announced that these will be available starting on April 21st, which is actually the day that this podcast comes out. So please, go to your local Best Buy, Walmart, whatever, walk in there, say that Andy Bennett told me to buy a Samsung Galaxy book. They will ask you, who's Andy Bennett? And, of course, you'll tell them my entire life story, and they'll say, okay, that's a little creepy, but, yeah, we got it in stock, and we have a 10.6-inch model that will start at $629.99.
They will wrap it up, put a bow on it, put Andy's address on it, and send it to him.
Yeah. Really, I mean, I've been getting about 50 of them in the mail through just recommending this to people already, so please... But for real though, this is a great looking device, and 10.6 inch will cost you just $630. I mean, take 1 penny off if you'd like, but that's going to get put on and more for tax. And that's the Wi-Fi model. There's an LTE version of the 12-inch model, which the 12-inch model with Wi-Fi will run you over $1,129, and then crank that up to $1,299 for the LTE model, which will be sold at Verizon Wireless, like I previously mentioned. And it will be available in silver nationwide, but if you would like to get it in black, you have to go to Best Buy, which is kind of annoying for me, as everything I own is in black, which it's an unintentional thing usually, but now I got to keep stuff consistent. But yeah, these have really nice specs. Like let's see, 12-inch model is, and the 12-inch model is really more of a Pro 4 competitor than the 10.6-inch model. Features a Super AMOLED Full HD display, 7th generation Intel Core i5 processor, dual core 3.1 gigahertz. Up to 8 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage capacity, support for additional storage using a micro SD card, on and on and on and on. Up to 11 hours of battery life with fast charging support, on and on and on and on. It's great looking. And it
does use Type-C. That's worth noting.
And it does feature some integration with, again, Samsung devices and services. Like they've got their own special Samsung apps that will, be messaging apps and whatnot. And and as someone who's already into Samsung's ecosystem, even if not fully intentionally, it's neat. I definitely am considering getting one when I, eventually have a couple of banks robbed, or get a nice bonus, whichever one comes first. All right, but
it does compare with the Surface, and that's fine. And a different range. I mean, Surface 3, Surface 4, Surface Pro, Surface Pro 4. Wow. And the different ranges in there, obviously, but I really do love the option for LTE, and we're going to see more and more of that, I believe.
Yeah, especially with Qualcomm's devices and cellular PCs, which is a transition for you.
Yeah, well, good job. I failed that. I flubbed that intro. I'll stop talking. I don't know what to say here.
Okay.
That's really bad. Point being, end of last year, at Microsoft's WinHack, which is in China, and we always gloss that over because we don't think about it, but it's basically the Windows Hardware Engineering Conference, and that's where all the people like Foxconn and whoever, that's where they go and they want to learn about what Windows is doing, where they can leverage their hardware with Windows. Makes sense. Well, last year at that time, December 8th at WinHack, Qualcomm announced that they were bringing Windows 10 to the ARM chips. Whoa, like literally whoa, like this is a big deal. Remember, I mean, you should know this, people. And as a recap,
just a note for the perfectionists out there that this is ARM64 and not just ARM.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be seeing this on existing Windows phones or whatever. It's not like you're suddenly going to download full Windows Desktop to your Lumia 950. This is a completely different class.
And I appreciate you bringing that up. That's very true. But these will support full Windows 10. It says it'll include a gigabit LTE connectivity, the best-in-class Wi-Fi, okay. As they said, they would be supporting thin, fanless designs that are capable of providing long battery life. And that's kind of the whole point, to have power, have connectivity, LTE, and also fanless. That's what we want. Not only is it just for these mobile devices, but we did hear that they're going for data center processors, the centric processors. And this is something I don't know as much about, but of course that's another. If you're using under servers, one of the biggest things you're worried about is heat dissipation, and if it can run low power, low heat, well, that of course is what they would want. And it's kind of interesting how that is. That's just an interesting dynamic there. Well, examples of this processor would be the 835, but also the Lumia 820. Wow. The Snapdragon 820 can actually, well, we've been told that this is going to be able to run WOA as well. So the Idol 4S and the Elite X3, those are examples of that. It'd be interesting to see how that upgrades.
Yeah, for sure. And it's definitely going to be interesting to see some of this stuff come on out, which of course, Qualcomm has confirmed that these are going to be coming in the 4th calendar quarter of this year. And it's going to be interesting. They demonstrated a Windows Server running on 10 nanometer Qualcomm-centric processors, which is just impressive as can be. Just all of this stuff is a very interesting thing that's going on. As we see these things that are cellular, like we said, before, cellular PCs. Oh man, it's past midnight now and it's killing me. But
I think this is something that has been underplayed. I don't think the significance of this is
I don't think it has been underplayed, but I also don't think it's been overplayed. I think it's got a decent amount of coverage.
Okay.
Maybe not in the mainstream stuff, but in our niche at the very least, I've seen it talked about so much.
That's fair.
There's a lot of people that are interested.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's finish up here. I love Groove, and there's another Groove Music Pass subscription or trial, a good deal. If you have not used Groove before, you can go for a trial on this and get up to 4 months free. Now you don't get the first 4 months free, but if you subscribe, get the first one free, and then you get start paying. You get tokens, basically. I'm not sure what the term for it, in which you can get a free month after that, 4 or 3 more free months. Couple things about Groove. It's still a pretty decent price, $9.99. I know that Spotify, depending on which one it is, can be a little bit cheaper. Overall, most people like Spotify just slightly more, but I'm very happy with Groove.
The thing about Groove versus Spotify personally is something that you're about to talk about, which I will leave that to you on a price point, but also the fact that I will say in Groove's favor, Groove has a much better app than Spotify does. The Spotify app is just something that continues to make me want to die every single day, but it still remains a better service for a variety of reasons that I will now let you get to.
Mm-hmm. Well, Groove used to be Zune. Zune had transitioned into Xbox Music. Xbox Music transitioned to Groove, of course. And so Groove still does not have a family pass. That bothers me. I do not know what on earth is holding back Microsoft from doing this. It could not. I mean, it's soft. I mean, it's not that hard. Come on, do it, please.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think even Amazon Music has a family pass. Spotify has a family pass. I don't know if Pandora has a family pass. I'm not sure. Although I do know they are moving closer to being like Spotify now. That seems to be the place to be. So, yeah, I mean, Microsoft, I don't think they're the only one without one, but they are in an industry where it is becoming more and more common to have one, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So, Xbox Music is still what it is called on Windows Phone 8.1. And then when it went to Mobile 10 is when they rolled the name over to Groove, if I remember correctly. And
yeah.
And so that app was, because the whole app was different too.
Just to interject here on this similar point, because it's kind of funny to me that Windows Phone 8.1 still has Xbox Music, as does any device out there still running Windows 8.1, but the Xbox 360 actually does have the Groove branding, which I was surprised, really. I turn on the 360, I take a look. Groove Music, okay, I thought that was an Xbox One thing only.
That is a good point. That's interesting. So when the Groove app first came out, when Windows 10 Mobile came out, it was pretty junky. But they did also push out to iOS and Android. Those apps were decent at the time, and they actually got worse, where Windows 10 Mobile app did get better. And at this point,
the Groove Android app is actually pretty good right now. I haven't used
Okay.
it for a while,
All right.
but it has gotten significantly better.
Okay, fair enough. From experience lately, the iOS app is not as good as it used to be for Groove. Anyway, the apps keep getting better. It is a good service, and there are great apps, like Andy said, compared to Spotify. One thing that we miss is that it no longer has My Groove. Come on,
It's
why?
got the recommended. It's just a name change, isn't it? I mean, they still got the
Yeah,
recommended
I know,
section.
but it's
I mean,
like,
it's the same,
why
same
have
thing
to
with a
just
different
copy
name.
everybody with the constant being generic? Like, I don't know. Like, anyone...
Well, I mean, generic is what people understand. It's not what stands out, but I mean, and we talked about this at the time when it happened, but it's really, I think it's all down to a group of 20 testers or whatever who do an A/B test, and it turns out that more people understand it when it's named recommended than My Groove.
This is my thing. If I see recommended, I know what that is, and I may not necessarily tap on it. If I see My Groove, I may not know what it is, and I am more likely to tap on it out of curiosity. Even if I don't... I should have a good idea what it is, but if I don't know fully what it is, I'm more likely to try it out, I think. Recommended, that actually sounds like an app, or an ad to me, excuse me. We see these recommended apps in, File Explorer or whatever, and it's basically an ad. I would rather see My Groove, and it's going to feel less advertising.
I get what you're saying there.
and
Yeah,
more,
I think they could
more
have
customized to me.
I totally understand them changing the name, although I do think they could have gone with a much better idea.
Yeah.
Spotify has Your Daily Mix, which I think that sums it up perfectly. I mean, you can't look at that and think, okay, what's that? I mean, you kind of know what it is going in. And there's like very little room to misinterpret.
That's true.
As opposed to My Groove sort of sounding like a customization thing. I don't know.
It caused me to click, tap on it and see what it was.
That's fair.
So anyway,
I guess it depends on what type of person you are, but I mean, this is kind of why they have A/B tests.
yeah. Well, at this point, I'm just a cranky guy who wants to go to bed. So what?
And
we don't have much left here. What are we going to finish off with?
This is nearing the end as my throat is ready to give out. And so, on a final note, I'm going to recommend Halo Wars again, because now Halo Wars Definitive Edition, has a standalone release on the Xbox One, Windows 10, and Steam right now. Now, previously, if you owned Halo Wars 2 Ultimate, which was really overpriced, you could get Halo Wars Definitive Edition, and it was the only way to get it until now. And yeah, we actually got the news kind of got out that a Steam version was happening, that leaked, and now it is, of course, completely confirmed. It is completely released, and it is completely good. It's only $20, and it is worth every single penny, I think. And it is worth noting that if you buy it for playing on your PC rather than your Xbox, you might want to go with the Steam version, as while it is a Play Anywhere title, so that is worth keeping in mind, PC users are kind of left out in the cold. There is no crossplay available. You cannot play with Xbox One users if you are on the Windows 10 version of the game, and you cannot play with Steam users if you are on the Windows 10 version of the game. And the thing that really kind of irks me is that I'm pretty sure crossplay between the Windows 10 version and the Steam version would have worked. But really, if it's on Steam, the majority of people are going to buy it on Steam, and if you are interested in playing it with other players who aren't your friends that you have convinced to buy on the Windows Store, or have potentially given them a copy on the Windows Store, I mean, generally, if you're interested in just playing with random people, really, you should just end up going with the Steam version. But yeah, it's a good game. If it doesn't matter if you want to play it single player, it really doesn't matter where you buy it. It's fantastic, tons of fun. Not the most detailed or deep game out there, but that's kind of part of what makes it appealing to me. As I'm not super into real-time strategy games, I'm just someone who really wants to have a good time, and I think Halo Wars does a good job of providing that. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to go work for IGN now. I kid.
All right, well, that is it for this episode, everyone. Thank you for listening to the MSPoweruser podcast. Be sure to follow the site on Twitter at MSPoweruser, and of course, MSPoweruser.com. By doing so, you'll be able to see all the latest, not only just Andy and I talking, but all the awesome sites we put up every single day. Plenty of good contributors and some pretty good content. It's really good. It's, wow, good site, I guess. Be sure to subscribe to the show using your favorite podcast aggregator. That way you're going to get notifications when the new show goes up, which is every Friday morning, Friday sometime. If you feel compelled to interact with us individually, Twitter is our favorite medium, or at least mine. I'm on Twitter at VernonEL, and Andy, I guess you're recovering.
I'm still there. I'm not recovering. I'm past that phase. I'm at the bitter internet user phase, but I'm still there and I'm posting.
Very good. You can find Andy on Twitter at FusionFan45. That is it for this episode. Have a great week, everyone, and take care.
Yep.